Perfect. Hey, hi Abbas. Hello everyone. Today we have Abbas with us, and he is the CISO for Ant Group International. Thank you so much for having and joining us today, Abbas. So you want to give a quick intro on your side?
Hi, Satu. So just a quick correction. I am the EMEA CISO for Ant International.
Yeah,
Ant International is a very well-known fintech. We work in too many countries. I am I am the EMEA CISO. I've been working with the company for the last 4 years, and I'm coming from a technical background. So I was head of IT for a long time, IT manager. I went through all the ranks, and then I ended up doing cybersecurity. And thanks for having me today.
amazing, amazing. So today, I think me and Abbas we're going to have a quick uh, roundtable or a discussion kind of a topic around AI and the evolution of third-party risk management, especially in the complex vendor ecosystem. So brings a huge amount of experience when it comes to third-party risk management and dealing with third-party vendors, and he has tackled a ton of chaos in past as well in his personal experiences. So with that, I'll just ask you a quick starting question, Abbas. Like over a period of time, the third-party risk management and the way how the vendor ecosystem has been growing, it become more and more complex. And what role can AI play in simplifying this third-party risk management?
Okay, that's a great place to start. So the landscape today is incredibly complex, as you know. So our organizations nowadays aren't just working with a handful of suppliers anymore. They are often like connected to hundreds of thousands of vendors, cloud providers, fintech APIs, and niche like SaaS tools. So each connection, it creates a digital dependency, which means like more entry points for cyber risk, more attacking surfaces. So as an example, the SolarWind breach was a classic example. One software vendor, compromise cascaded to thousands of clients worldwide. So AI here helps by automating vendor discovery and mapping, these hidden dependencies instead of relying on spreadsheets. So AI can use digital footprinting and business relationship data to build a living map for the entire ecosystem. So it's like tuning on the lights in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see like every connection, every exposure.
Totally, totally. And when it comes to the major problem, right? It's like the number of vendors that an enterprise organizations typically deal with over a period of time has drastically went up. And on top of it, it's not just the third party vendors that we need to worry about. We also need to worry about sometimes the fourth party vendors as well. And that creates a huge chain by itself. On top of it, with the recent AI sort of things, what are your thoughts, about like how do we need to make sure we take care of the due diligence side of things in a cybersecurity posture when we go ahead and onboard a new third party vendor who is much more into AI and SaaS kind of a platform that record the meetings virtually and these type of things. Do you think the attack surface changes a bit, or do you think like we need to take some additional controls to make sure we tackle it?
So your question here about AI efficiency, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's I think most GRC people, if they are hearing us now, governance risk and compliance, security compliance, they will know what I'm talking about. So traditional due diligence has been slow and static. They you come, uh, you are onboarding a new vendor. You need to do your due diligence on them, or they are like doing their due diligence on you. You end up with a questionnaire of 200 questions survey. You need to wait weeks for a response and manually review it. Um, but those answers out are outdated almost immediately, because when you are answering a due diligence or a reverse due diligence, you are answering at the state the control was when you filled the due diligence. So if you do, as an example, a pen test or that, so you are doing a pen test, it just reflects the time, the results, the report you have, it reflects the time the pen test was done, not, after that. So
Mm.
AI here, like, it changes the game. Using the like natural language processing, the NLP and machine learning, AI can easily, like, analyze external data sources like security rating, like breach reports, configuration scans, and even employees reviews to build a real-time risk profile for a vendor. For instance, let's take an example. Instead of asking, do you have multiple factor authentication, AI
Mm.
can check DNS record or leak credential databases to verify that practice automatically.
Yeah,
It's faster, it is more accurate. I know that always need to try. It learns fast, but it is faster than human response, more accurate and less intrusive, which also improves the vendor relationships.
totally, 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 totally. And when it comes to the current third-party risk management, traditionally, right, the third-party risk management has been always periodic. Like, for example, when you're onboarding a third-party vendor, you go ahead and do some due diligence. And the next due diligence is a time-bound kind of a thing that you do it once in a year or once in 2 years kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, what does this continuous vendor risk monitoring look like in actual battlefield or in real practice?
This is a great question, by the way. In the old model, you might review vendor risk once a year, right? Or whenever you have um, or when they have a breach or something like that. But threats are evolving, daily. Probably now it's not even daily, like every minute, every second, every nanosecond. Continuous monitoring means always on visibility. So AI continuously scans for signals like new vulnerabilities, even 0 days, leaked credentials, or suspicious domain activity tied to your vendors. For example,
Mm.
um, I'm experienced in fintech. So if your payment processor suddenly appears in a dark web data dump,
Yeah,
yeah, so AI can flag that instantly.
yes,
Before you used to subscribe to too many uh, third-party vendors to give you that insight, and sometimes data is outdated, it's not accurate. So AI can flag that instantly. He can score the risk. I know you need to train it to score the risk properly, but even like it can trigger containment workflow. How can you contain that?
yeah,
I don't want to go to commercial, like I'm not going to mention any commercial, like platforms,
yeah,
but some of them they do this. Like they combine that AI scoring model with external telemetry to detect changes in real time. So it's a shift from snapshots to streaming intelligence.
yeah, yeah. Because when I mean, always the way how the risk has to be handled should be like more of a continuous fashion rather than being a periodic kind of an assessment. And I totally relate whatever you have said so far, and especially when you're monitoring a particular third-party vendor, and when you go ahead and look at their score has been dropped or a new exposure from a third-party vendor has been appeared, it is
Yeah.
always better to go ahead and auto trigger some kind of a reassessment and ask them to, I mean, go ahead and assign them some kind of an remediation task so that they will be able to tackle that kind of a risk in near real time rather than asking them to go ahead and fix all these things once in a year kind of an assessment. So
Yeah.
totally, totally, totally reduces the blast radius as well and improves the security posture. Very nice. And Abbas, I have a follow-up question for that.
Yeah.
It's basically like how can organizations balance between these internal controls that we have in place and monitoring the external exposures that these third-party vendors might introduce to our organization?
I think this is that's a balance, like every CISO struggles with. So everyone, even working with within the GRC world, basically, and they struggle with this. So you can have a perfect internal hygiene, yeah, but
Yeah,
if a vendor leaks your credentials or misconfigures a cloud bucket, you're still exposed. and you're still responsible of your customer data, which has been exposed as well. You still need to deal with the regulator, and you need to make sure like you initiate your third party risk incident process. So here, what AI does, it helps by correlating internal and external telemetry. So say your marketing vendor domain is being spoofed,
Mhm.
like in a phishing campaign targeting your customers. Yeah, so AI can, connect that external signal back to your vendor inventory and flag it as a immediate reputation risk. Um, it's here. It is about like creating that feedback loop between your internal controls and the outside world. Sometimes something humans can't manually track at a scale, if you know what I mean.
Totally, totally. Because always these internal controls that we have in place, they are solid. But when you're looking at a third party vendor, and the third party vendors can have a lot of other external threats as well, like brand abuse. It can be a leak, or it can be some shadow IT that they have forgot to go and harden it, or it can be some of their shadow AI as well, and cloud assets exposed and having misconfigurations that are always outside this parameter. And what I always feel is it is always better to go ahead and do some inside out kind of a governance, and outside in kind of an intel, and we can aggregate these both things into a dollar weighted risk queue, just like how we have credit scores for ourselves. It's always better to have some kind of a dollar weighted risk queue and use this kind of a metric to perform a better due diligence, rather than just focusing much more only on the internal controls, and totally ignoring the outside external risks that these signals bring us about a third party vendor.
Absolutely.
Nice. And we have seen you. I mean, I know that you have initially started as an EU Chief Information Security Officer, and then now you're an EMEA kind of a Chief Information Security Officer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the role of AI in mapping these multi-jurisdictional compliance requirements into something like a more of a unified governance model?
That's that's an amazing question. So, most organizations, they treat compliance as a tick box. Sometimes you need to tick the box and you need to carry on. It's a once a year scramble. We need to go and audit all our third party vendors to prove that are following the rules. Most of these vendors, let's say if they are big players, it's going to be really hard for you to do an RDD on them or IDD on them unless that should be in your contract. But most of the times they're going to say, you know what, we have these certifications, go and look at them, so we don't need to submit all these evidences to you.
Yeah.
But regulations like DORA, NIS2 are shifting focus. The focus is now shifted toward operation resilience. Yeah. So being able to detect, respond, and recover as quick as possible. So AI here enables that by automating evidence collection and monitoring compliance in real time. So before you used to do this exercise of evidences, and the evidence changed, your architecture changed. Now, with AI, that can be like done in real time. For instance, so an NI system can continuously assess whether your vendors meet DORA resilient thresholds and automatically generate a compliance report when regulators ask. So you don't have to go and depend on a big team, to do this for you. Well, you still need the team because in human input here is always required when you are working with regulators. But that will make the life easier. So instead of spending weeks gathering audit evidences, you can have a real-time compliance dashboard that's always current. It's compliance that works at the speed of risk, which is usually it doesn't work this way.
Yeah, because in the like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we used to have all these complex mappings from one framework to the other framework, and the compliance team always love to reuse the evidences. So they have a huge tracker of this cross dependency side of things. But I think in these days, right, like as you have mentioned earlier, the natural language processing can be used to basically align and group all the similar controls and then map it back to the framework so that all those evidences that we submit from one particular framework or for some one particular audit can be totally reused for a totally different framework and a new audit in a new jurisdiction. So it's like always it's like a more of a knowledge graph kind of a thing. So the knowledge graph links all these obligations and then controls and then evidences. So it's basically like one change uh, will be going ahead and clearing multiple audits in a single shot. So yeah, I think it is the life of auditors a lot compared to how it was in past, where we don't have this power of NLPs which can reorganize and stitch all these controls together and group them. So totally a lot of time saving for the security teams these days.
Yeah.
And the follow-up question for that, right, Abbas, with the huge adoption and the acceleration of Gen AI adoption going on, do you see that in near future the vendor risk assessments are dynamically generated and continuously updated using AI?
Uh, yes. So this is one of the most exciting, probably areas that AI can help us on.
Mhm.
So regulations are fragmented. GDPR, as an example, in DORA in Europe for financials, probably HIPAA for healthcare and more. AI can create or can act as a translation layer using NLP to parse multiple regulatory texts, extract control requirements, and map overlaps automatically. I know this is easily said, and it is hard to do this usually, but with AI, this changed. For an example, if both DORA and NIS to require an incident response plan,
Mhm.
and AI can identify that common control and ensure your policies are aligned. So here you are mapping multi jurisdictional
Okay.
compliance requirement. Um, as an example, like big companies are developing AI-powered regulatory intelligence engines, and
Yeah.
one of them is ServiceNow. So it's very well known that they are doing that, um, and making global compliance more like kind of coherent and efficient.
Mm. Totally. And the way how I have seen few other CISOs, right, the way how they are adopting is they started creating custom questionnaires. I mean, initially it used to be like just one master template kind of a questionnaire that we send it out to a third party vendor, and the third party vendor fills it out, and we get it back, and the compliance analyst will go through it. And that master template doesn't consider the context or the relationship that we have with the third party vendor and a lot of additional metrics. So these days I think it's much more easier to go ahead and generate custom questionnaires or some kind of a smart questionnaire kind of a thing, which can be generated with the AI. Once you give the AI model the context that this is a third party vendor, he's a critical third party vendor for us, he handles the vendor handles the payroll for my organization, and they did get compromised in the past couple of years multiple times. So this kind of a context, once we pass it on to the AI model, I think the AI models are well capable enough to create something more of a smart questionnaire or contextual questionnaire, which is much more relevant for this third party vendor. And I don't know how the third party vendors are going to answer all these different questionnaires that they're going to get, but we as the enterprise organizations, I think we'll get a lot of value out of it when we tweak the questionnaires based on the context of a third party vendor.
Yep.
And then it also becomes a pain for the security compliance teams to audit these things, because once a third party vendor completes a huge questionnaire, it comes back to the security team members to audit those things.
Yes.
So the team is well prepared to audit type of a questionnaire, but the team is not well prepared to audit a new set of questionnaire that comes up every time, because the smart questionnaire sends a new, totally different type of a questionnaire for each and every third party vendor for the context. I think it would be better if AI can not just create a custom questionnaire for the third party vendor, but it can also review the responses that the third party vendor has submitted, and trash any flags or findings out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep, yep, yep. And one thing which I'm a huge fan of is about something called as graph models or knowledge graphs.
Yeah.
So it's like how an AI-powered graph model or a contextual intelligence provider can give us a more holistic picture about a third-party vendor. What do you think about it?
Just about the graphs first, it's beautiful. Um, Raf behind you. So I love that. And just to mention that, my love of the graphs started like probably a few years ago when I was working with one of the a very good talent. He was my boss. His name is Dennis Cruz, and we used yeah, we create our risk management platform using Jira and Jupyter notebooks and Elastic, and we used to, create like generate these big graphs. So I am a big fan of graphs like you. So traditional TPRM tools view vendors. They see the vendors in isolation, yes,
Yeah,
but risk doesn't work that way.
yeah,
It is interconnected. So
yeah,
and this is one of the greatest thing I've done with Jira before, so you can see how your even like how your risk is evolving in a graph. So it was a threat, and suddenly it became, you had an incident or whatever, and you start to have a started from a technical risk, it went to a business risk, and it is connected to this role. So the traditional TPRM tools, they can only see that only can see the vendor in isolation, just the vendor.
yeah,
But
yeah,
risk, as I said, it doesn't work this way. It is interconnected. So the AI powered graph models map relationship. You can chat GPT, it can create some nice things,
yeah,
and other ones between vendors, like sub vendors, shared technology and data flows. So if a cloud provider you depend on suffers an outage, AI can instantly show you which vendors and processes will be impacted uh,
mm,
downstream, right?
yeah,
So think of it as a Google Maps for risks. You can trace every dependency and see where your most critical bottleneck lie. That kind of contextual like intelligence, it enables the organization to prioritize what is the most important to you, what matters most, rather than just treating all vendors as equal risk. I know you classify your risk your vendors as tier one, tier two, tier three, where tier one, as an example, is the most critical vendor. But that again, that contextual intelligence you get from AI, you don't have it. You usually didn't have it before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you know that this third-party vendor is actually T1 even before you onboard them? So I have seen organizations go ahead and mark a third-party vendor as T1, and
Yeah,
then later turn out to be like that third-party vendor just supplies stationary goods to my organization.
probably
So
the GRC guy didn't want to do this, due diligence more than once every 3 years. So probably. So I
yeah,
don't know. They classify them as tier two or whatever. Yeah,
oh my God, yeah, totally, totally, totally.
seen
And I
that.
think it's uh, it's changing a bit the way how organizations are treating the third-party vendors risk, especially by not just looking a static score for a third-party vendor, instead understanding the holistic risk. Like if this third-party vendor gets compromised, what's going to be the impact for my organization, and that can be only obtained if all this information is in a graph kind of a thing. Like this is a third party vendor, he has access to xyz kind of a data of my organization, and this third party vendor has ppn access to my organization. So once all this information is in a knowledge graph kind of a thing, it's always easy for compliance analysts to understand the actual risk of this particular third party vendor when something goes south. So totally on point. I was totally on point. And I think we did reach to the end of the points that we wanted to touch base today. And I just want to make sure I thank you for joining us today and sharing you a ton of real-time insights that you have been using in your organization and your experience. So So totally appreciate your time today, Abbas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me as well. It was my pleasure.
Likewise, likewise, likewise. Thank you, guys, for everyone who
Thank
has
you,
joined
everyone.
us, and we'll be meeting soon as well. Take care. Bye. Till
Thank
the
you
next
very
time.
much. Cheers.